Tonight, when you pay your taxes, you complain about the number on the screen, but you pay it and move on. Now imagine a world where the government simply stopped being able to collect that number at all, not because people refused to pay, but because the coins themselves had stopped meaning anything. That actually happened to the most powerful empire the ancient world had ever seen, and it did not fall the way you think. You have heard the story. Barbarians at the gates. Wild tribesmen pouring over the frontier. An empire too soft to defend itself. It is a dramatic image, but mostly wrong. The truth is slower, stranger, and far more uncomfortable. Empires do not usually get murdered. They rot from within first, and invaders simply walk into a building whose foundation is already gone. At its height, Rome controlled 5 million square kilometers, moving resources across 3 continents in weeks. How does this stop existing? Start with the money. In the 3rd century, Rome needed to pay soldiers but lacked silver. Emperors debased the currency, mixing cheaper metals into coins while keeping the stamp identical. The denarius's silver content dropped below 5% within decades. Prices soared, trust collapsed, and people abandoned the currency. Diocletian tried to freeze this collapse in 284 CE by fixing prices by law. It failed immediately. Merchants refused to sell at a loss, and goods vanished. As currency weakened, taxes rose to fund the army. Small farmers abandoned their land rather than face unpayable debts, fleeing to wealthy landowners for protection. By trading freedom for security, they planted the seeds of feudalism. The empire was losing the ordinary people who kept its center running. The frontier was a constantly tested negotiation. Beyond it lived organized societies, but pressure from the Huns forced the Goths to flee toward Rome. In 376 CE, tens of thousands of Goths arrived at the Danube seeking asylum. Roman officials mismanaged the crisis, selling spoiled food at extortionate prices, causing a rebellion. In 378 CE, at the Battle of Adrianople, a massive Roman army was destroyed. This was a crisis Rome's own administration created and failed to contain. Consider a frontier soldier paid in coins that bought less bread every year, watching merchants refuse currency stamped with the emperor's face while hearing rumors of generals usurping power. Loyalty becomes fragile. Why die for a system that cannot guarantee your next meal? Some soldiers deserted, some joined the enemy, and many simply stopped caring who sat on the throne. The countryside tells a similar story. Small farming families faced climbing taxes to fund an army that could no longer guarantee peace. Bandits grew bolder and local officials more corrupt. Many families surrendered their land and legal independence to wealthy neighbors in exchange for protection, becoming bound to the soil. This arrangement, patricinium, spread across western provinces. Fewer people had a stake in the empire's survival. Why fight for Rome when it couldn't protect you, but your landlord could? The famous date, 476 CE, when the Germanic commander Odoacer deposed the last Western emperor, Romulus Augustulus, is taught as the day Rome fell, but nobody alive then marked it as significant. Odoacer did not burn the city. He simply stopped appointing puppet rulers and governed Italy himself, technically under the Eastern Court in Constantinople. Life didn't change overnight. Taxes were collected, roads used, Latin spoken, and the Senate met for decades. The empire had hollowed itself out with untrusted currency, high taxes, a mercenary military, and severe political instability. Between 235 and 284 CE, Rome cycled through over 20 rulers, most assassinated. Odoacer merely stopped pretending the structure functioned. Meanwhile, the eastern half, the Byzantine Empire, survived for another 1,000 years due to defensible geography and wealthier trade routes. What killed Rome was currency debasement, a crushing tax system, political instability, and a widening gap between the elite and a struggling majority. Historians still debate the primary cause. Edward Gibbon blamed internal moral and political decay. Modern scholars offer a more complex view. Peter Heather argues that external pressure from Hunnic migrations was a decisive force striking at a vulnerable moment, while Brian Ward Perkins notes archaeological evidence of collapsing living standards for ordinary citizens. The true answer is a tangle of all these factors. Currency collapse weakened the army, which lost the frontier, destroying the tax base. Empires fall because the inside can no longer hold the weight. So tonight, when you pay your taxes and grumble at the screen, remember that the number itself is not the danger. The danger is what happens